Okay. Now I have got the right title. So, I'll begin in just a minute here. I got to pull up the pages. So, again, going through this, a rule book for arguments. It's not big. All right. So, you are here because you want to know how to make a convincing argument. Correct? I think so. All right. Give me just a second because I'm here on my other screen pulling up the stoof. My phone's going crazy over there. All right. So, no, I want to switch. Okay. There it is. Cool. All right. Now, there we go. Okay. Let's see if we can get it. I'll be reading from the book. Whoa. All right, that was psychedelic. I will be reading directly from the book. You guys can follow along here on on your screen. And I think we're just gonna skip the introduction and the other thing because unnecessary. Let me just pull up my chat here. If anybody wants to drop anything in the chat, I will read that when we get to the end. And I think that's about all we need to cover. Should I do the opener? Maybe I should do the opener. I don't know. Give me just a second. I didn't set all this up before I... Okay. Dang it. It never opens on the right page. Unfortunate. Okay, here we go. Here's my opener. Okay, cool. So, starting on the first premise. Identify premises and conclusions. The very first step in making an argument is to ask yourself what you are trying to prove. What is your conclusion? Remember that the conclusion is the statement for which you are giving the reasons. The statements that give the reasons are your premises. Consider these lines from Winston Churchill, one of the masters of making argumentation. I am an optimist. It does not seem to be much use being anything else. This is an argument, not just an amusing quip, because Churchill is giving a reason to be an optimist. His premise is that it does not seem to be much use being anything else. Premises and conclusions are not always so obvious. Sherlock Holmes has to explain one of his deductions in The Adventure of Silver Blaze. Very good story. A dog was kept in the stables, and yet, though someone had been in and had fetched out a horse, the dog had not barked. Obviously, the visitor was someone whom the dog knew well. Holmes has two premises. One is explicit. The dog did not bark at the visitor. The other is a general fact that Holmes assumes we know about dogs. Dogs bark at strangers. Together, these premises imply that the visitor was not a stranger. It turns out that this is the key to solving the mystery. When you are using arguments as a means of inquiry, you sometimes may start with no more than the conclusion you wish to defend. State it clearly. First of all, maybe you want to take Churchill a step further and argue that you and I should be optimists too. If so, say so explicitly. Then ask yourself what reasons you have for drawing that conclusion. What reasons can you give to prove that we should be optimists? You could appeal to Churchill's authority. If Churchill recommends optimism, who are you and I to quibble? This appeal will not get you very far, however, since equally famous people have recommended pessimism. That's the famous appeal to authority fallacy. Not very often convincing in philosophical discussion. So you need to think about the question on your own. Again, what is your reason for thinking that we should be optimists? One reason could be that optimism boosts your energy to work for success, whereas if you feel defeated in advance, you may never even try. Optimists are more likely to succeed, to achieve their goals. Maybe this is what Churchill meant as well. If this is your premise, say so explicitly. This book offers you a ready list of different forms that arguments can take. Use this list to develop your premises. To defend a generalization, for instance, check Chapter 2. It will remind you that you need to give a series of examples as premises. And it will tell you what sort of examples to look for. Oh, I need to switch over so that you can follow me. So I'm way down here. Way down here. If your conclusion requires a deductive argument, like those explained in Chapter 4, the rules outlined in that chapter will tell you what types of premises you need. You may have to try several different arguments before you find the one that works well. So this book is not about crafting arguments on the fly. This is about thinking through the things that you believe and crafting good arguments for them in advance. So, let's see. So I just really like that they used Holmes in this. Very good set of stories. I listen to them often, read them often. They're actually available on YouTube for your consumption. And just seeing how Holmes puts together his deductions and his arguments can really help a person think through their own arguments and deductions. So, like I said, we're going to be going through this book. There's not a whole lot in each one of these chapters. Very short, as I showed you. Like this is Chapter 2. Goes on to the next page a little bit. And since we've got a ton of time, yeah, we still got a ton of time. Yeah, we'll just read through Chapter 2. So, I don't have it actually up. I didn't, Alright, so I'll just read it to you. Short, you know what, no. I'll get you a picture of it very quickly, because it doesn't take too long. And then I can just send it over to my email, pop it up on the screen, and then you've got it for your own follow-along pleasure. Alright, let's get this Chapter 2 up here. Should come through any second now. So while we're waiting, just think of an argument that you want to expound on, bring up premises and conclusions for. Drop your arguments in the chat, and I can spend a little time in another podcast kind of explaining, because it's a lot easier to do this when you have your own arguments and things. I have some that I will give at the end of the podcast. I'll be explaining a lot of the conservative arguments and reasonings for why we believe what we believe. But if you have anything explicit that you want discussed, drop it into one of the chats. All right, we're going to try this, see if that goes slower. Nope. My goodness. It's so hard to I know you guys probably definitely listen to this podcast to watch this page go in and out. My goodness. There is no... Okay, I'm sorry. There we go. My goodness. Could not get that to work. So short arguments are usually developed in one or two paragraphs. Put the conclusion first, followed by your reasons. Or set out your premises first and draw the conclusion at the end. In any case, set out your ideas in an order that unfolds your line of thought most clearly for the reader. Consider this short argument by Bertrand Russell. The evils of the world are due to moral defects quite as much as to lack of intelligence, but the human race has not hitherto discovered any method of eradicating moral defects. Intelligence, on the contrary, is easily improved by methods known to every competent educator. Therefore, until some method of teaching virtue has been discovered, progress will have to be sought by improvement of intelligence rather than of morals. Now, I disagree with that, but it's a fine argument to use. Each sentence in this paragraph prepares the way for the next one, and then the next one steps smoothly up to bat. Russell begins by pointing out the two sources of evil in the world, moral defects, as he puts it, and lack of intelligence. I would argue that lack of intelligence is not a source of evil in the world. There are many retarded people that are very fine people, don't really do anything to anybody. I know quite a few of them. It seems almost that the less intelligence you have, the nicer you are. But regardless, we continue. I'm not trying to debunk this argument. We're just looking at arguments. So, then he claims that we do not know how to correct moral defects, but that we do know how to correct lack of intelligence. Therefore, notice that the word therefore clearly marks his conclusion. Progress will have to come by improving intelligence. Getting an argument to unfold in a smooth sort of way is a real accomplishment. It's not easy to find just the right place for each part, and plenty of wrong places are available. Suppose Russell instead argued like this. The evils of the world are due to moral defect quite as much as to lack of intelligence. Until some method of teaching virtue has been discovered, progress will have to be sought by improvement of intelligence rather than of morals. Intelligence is easily improved by methods known to every competent educator. The human race has not hitherto discovered any means of eradicating moral defects. These are the same premises and conclusion, but they are in a different order, and the word therefore has been omitted before the conclusion. Now the argument is much harder to understand, and therefore also much less persuasive. The premises do not fit together naturally, and you have to read the passage twice just to figure out what the conclusion is. Don't count on your readers to be so patient. Expect to rearrange your argument several times to find the most natural order. The rules discussed in this book should help. You can use them to figure out not only what kinds of premises you need, but also how to arrange them in the best order. So, there you have it, the first two chapters. I'll be explaining or modeling these, again, like I said, in further chapters, or in further podcasts, rather. So, thank you for joining me for this short reading of the first couple chapters of A Rulebook for Arguments. Again, very small book. We're not going to be in this for a ridiculously long time. So, guys, thank you for joining me. And we will be back next time with a couple more rules for arguments. And we will continue in trying to craft the best argument that we can. I'm Anon Don, and this is the Homeless Politicast.